Hello, welcome to or back to my channel. As you can tell from the title, the topic of discussion is about seeing people think that they need to escape the past, escape themselves, and how it can affect your appearance or your perception of yourself. What I constantly see from people, or just celebrities in general, especially, trying to escape themselves from who they used to be instead of acknowledging or admitting the fact that they made wrong decisions and were punished for it. To then say, I'm leaving it all behind, I'm going to break up with someone because it reminds me of my wrongdoings, but I'm not going to admit it. I'm going to hurt them, so I'm happy because right now I need to think of only myself instead of wanting to have that person stay in your life, especially if they were good for you. You're going to leave them behind because you're leaving the past, quote-unquote, yourself behind? That doesn't make sense. You're always going to be that person whether you think you are or not. Everyone makes mistakes, but that doesn't mean you're any less of a person. You're going to grow and learn. But trying to escape that person is dumb and stupid. Trying to escape who you used to be isn't going to solve the underlying issue. You. The decisions you've made or still making, admit your wrongs and move on, instead of making a big deal about it and basically showing the world that you're succumbing to your own downfall. Tearing a whole life you had with someone, a good person, who was there with you, and trying to run away from those mistakes because you haven't come to terms with it. Sorry, but that doesn't solve or change anything. It creates more issues, especially subconsciously and mentally. You are you. You are not defined by the mistakes, but those mistakes made you into the person you become. Trying to keep a negative stigma on who you are isn't going to change anything, because it makes it harder to accept. You are who you say you are, and act on those words so it becomes actions. Be the person you claim to be, and move on. Society shapes and affects us in many ways, maybe even more than we want to realize or admit. From our interactions, connections, network, to personal development through our perception of us as a reflection of self-worth. Genetically, we rely on one another for survival of humanity. The connection makes our interactions physiologically and psychologically important, constantly affecting us on many levels daily. People who open their minds to see the negativity have learned that you can't believe everything that you hear. We constantly struggle, but that doesn't take away our knowledge or experiences, only to be judged every time we turn around. All we can do is move forward and trust ourselves that our positive impact will change and help us feel better in the long run. Listening to the bullshit people's view isn't healthy and doesn't help or change what we will almost always feel and endure. So, how can you work through it? Well, of course, don't give in to the negative. Do what you know helps you feel better in the moments of need. Music, meditate, anything. Think about more of what you want to change about your life or your way of thinking, and work towards that. Write stuff down if you have to. Look into reading books on the topics that interest you, or of course, talk to someone. There's no point in losing yourself along the way, because it either means you gave up, believed the lies, or chose to have a negative outlook and wanted to take it out on others because you feel a certain way. Everyone goes through shit. No one is alone. We all have our struggles, and we all have made mistakes. They don't define you. Now you're probably wondering, how does this all relate back to appearance? Well, when we have either traumatic experiences or our lives on display, huge mistakes that haven't only affected us, but others we care about. Appearances can be the result in which relaxation doesn't exist. Our state of mind can worsen if we're filled with guilt, hate or anger, selfishness and resentment, etc. When we have trouble coping through dark times of our life, no matter what it was, it will try to tear everything down. Because once there's a slight figment of negativity, that is a result of a huge impact on our life. It will then attach itself onto others and create an endless cycle of anger or frustration. That's where we should stop and think for a minute instead of wanting to instantly react like hooligans. Jesus, I can't even speak. Adding more and more negativity doesn't solve anything. Our perception of ourselves can be lost if we don't stop and think every now and then. No excuses, just relaxation and quiet time. It can deplete, and that's where the negativity resides and fogs our memory and judgment of what ourself. Fogs our memory and judgment of ourself, but leaves it there for others that come in contact with us. Our appearance becomes warped and twisted because we've lost our sense of self. This is what I mean. The idea of appearance becomes something it never was to begin with. Appearance becomes lost, or it morphs into something else, where the negativity shit stays. The idea of appearance becomes important and is then all around them. Everything must be or consist of appearance as a reflection of them. Something they think matches them. Most times it's the opposite of what they claim it to be, but matches exactly to their actions and how they think in reality. Contradictions are everywhere, right? And now, as my overall point here, appearance means nothing. It's shallow thinking. Thinking that appearance is important isn't healthy for your state of mind. Personality, mental health, overall health, and state of mind are far more important. So do whatever it takes to reach your goals and what you think that should look like. That's where quality time is, relaxation, and an actual understanding of how things are in the world is what matters most.